Hey guys, Zach here. In this video, I'm going to be showing you an extremely powerful AI sales system that uses Perplexity AI to conduct deep research into your prospects before a sales call. And within literally 30 seconds of a new sales call being booked, populates a detailed lead profile into your CRM and gives you everything you need to know about the lead before the call. What usually takes founders or sales teams 20 to 30 minutes to research, this AI is going to be able to do that within the click of a button. Now, if you're not familiar with Perplexity, it's essentially an AI search engine and research tool, but unlike other large language models like ChatGPT and Gemini, Perplexity has access to real-time live information. So unlike ChatGPT that might use outdated and unreliable information, Perplexity always outputs its answer with sources and citations. So that way we can actually use this to generate real-time, live and reliable information about a company. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my screen and I'm going to give you a high-level overview of how the system works. I'm then going to pull up my automation software and actually show you how we set this up with Perplexity. And then finally, we're going to go through a live example to show you what a system like this actually looks like and the kind of information that we can generate. So just to start from first principles, to give you a basic overview of how the system's going to work, what's essentially going to happen is we're going to get a new sales call or demo call that gets booked in on our software. Now, whatever this software is, it could be Calendly, it could be Go High Level, or whatever scheduling software that your company uses. Once a new sales call gets booked, what we're essentially going to do is we're going to take this input information, so the company's website, the company's name. We're then going to plug this into Perplexity in order for it to conduct deep research into the company. And with the information we generate about the company with Perplexity, what we're then going to do is we're going to plug this into a ChatGPT model. And what that's going to allow us to do is that's going to allow us to summarize and format the information in an easy to read way. And then we can create an outline for a lead profile report that's essentially going to tell the founder or the sales rep everything they need to know about that lead going into the call. So once we've used ChatGPT to generate that lead profile report, what we can then do is we can format that into a Google Doc that's going to be super easy to read. And then finally, we can send that Google Doc over to the CRM next to the lead's name, or perhaps we might even want to send it via an email or a Slack channel. And this is a process that takes place in literally less than 30 seconds. So as soon as a new sales call or a demo call gets booked, we're going to conduct research on the company. We're going to formulate a lead profile report. We're then going to send that over to a Google Doc, and then we're going to send that over to our CRM so that we can hop over to our CRM and see everything we need to know about the lead. So that's essentially a high-level overview of how the AI sales system works. If I hop over to Perplexity and show you a little bit about how this works, it's essentially a large language model like ChatGPT, where you can come in and there's a chat box here, you can ask it questions and it conducts research for you. But rather than actually coming into Perplexity and typing this in here, what we're actually going to do is we're going to set this up with an automation system. So as soon as a new sales call gets triggered, this is going to send all the information over to Perplexity and we can go ahead and generate that lead profile report. Now, the software I'm going to be using for this is make.com. Now, there's a bunch of different automation softwares out there, but I just find for demos like this, make.com is the most visually easy to understand. So if I hop over to my make.com scenario now, this is essentially what the workflow looks like. So what this entire automation workflow is doing is we're basically listening out for a new sales call here. So you can see the lightning bolt, which is a trigger. So as soon as a new sales call gets booked on our booking software, this is essentially going to send all the information about that booking through to here. Now, I've got a few extra steps in here, which are qualification steps and data cleaning steps, which I'll go over in a bit. But essentially at the high level of what happens is a new sales call gets booked in. We check to make sure the lead is qualified. We then use Perplexity to conduct deep research into the lead. We then use an AI module to actually generate the company profile based on the research gathered from this Perplexity module. What we can then do is we can then use the output generated by ChatGPT to plug that into a Google Doc, which will essentially give us a sales brief or a lead profile that will tell us everything we need to know about the lead. And then finally, what we can do is we can update our CRM to basically add the lead profile into there next to the prospect's name. So what I'm going to do first, before I run you through the prompts that I use with Perplexity and ChatGPT and show you how each one of these modules works, is we're going to run through a live demo where I'm actually going to book an example call with an example company. And I'm going to show you what happens from when we actually book this call through to actually generating the sales brief and populating that into the CRM. So my preferred scheduling software that I use for all of my bookings is cal.com. Now, a lot of people use Calendly, a lot of people use Go High Level and Acuity Scheduling. But for all of my scheduling, I actually use cal.com. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and run over to my scheduling software quickly and pull up my booking link. So if I just come into this one, for example, what we're going to do is we're going to simulate an example booking. And I'm actually going to go ahead and grab a random company and show you what it looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to Google and find an example B2B company to actually use for this. I'm going to show you just how much information we can generate without even having the company's LinkedIn URL or any scraped data. We're purely just going to give the AI the company website, and from that it's going to be able to scrape the whole web and give us detailed, reliable information about the company. So if I just head over to Google here, and for example, let's do a B2B marketing agency in the US, just because that's the kind of companies that I actually target. Cool. So if we search for that, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to choose a random company here, one that I haven't clicked on already. So let's go Fox Agency. That sounds like an interesting company. So if I head over to the booking link here and I just select a random time, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put in their company name, which was Fox Agency. We're going to give them the company URL, which is copy and paste. The current revenue, this is just something that I have on my sales call link, but I'm just going to go ahead and pick a random one here. And then for the work email, I just want to make sure it's actually a work email, because if it's not, it will trigger the disqualification in my workflow. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in a fake email here. And I'll just type in some random letters here just to make sure it doesn't actually go to a real email address. But if I just go back to the workflow here and make sure it's turned on, so what this is basically going to be doing now is it's going to be listening out for a new sales call to be booked. So if I come back over to the booking link and I'll just go ahead and send that over. If I come back to here, you should see it's just generated. You can see that the actual data has been populating. So we've validated it's a work email. Perplexity is now conducting its research. We're now using ChatGPT to generate the company profile. And then finally, it's creating the sales brief in Google Docs and then updating that to our database. So what I'll do now is I'll actually go over to the Google Drive that I've actually saved this Google Doc into, which is just the video example drive. So if I head over to this now, we can see we've got a sales report generated that's basically called Fox Agency Sales Brief with the date of the actual appointment booking. So if we click into this now, I'll show you exactly what it looks like. So title, Fox Agency Sales Brief. Here's all the information we managed to find about Fox Agency. So the basics is located in New York, Denver, Leeds. The type of business, so it's an integrated B2B tech marketing and PR agency. So then we've got a list of the services, the specialities and the industries that it operates in. So we can see here, these are all the services it provides. And we've got speciality, so it specializes in brand-led demand generation, global campaigns for B2B tech. And then finally, we can actually see the industries of the clients it targets. And this is helpful information when going into a sales call. It's given us the actual founder's name as well. So even though I put my own name into the booking link, it output us the actual founder's name. So then down here, we've got a list of their clients that they've worked with and also their case studies. So the actual company that they worked with and what they did for that company. Now, depending on what you sell and your offer, or potentially you're even looking for some talking points going into the call, this information about the clients and the work they've done might be important to you. And then next, if we scroll down, we've got their online presence. So it tells us perhaps you're a web design agency and you're looking to see, have they got a professional website? What is the quality of their website looking like? And then also a little bit about their recent activities. So you can see they recently did a podcast on Tech Horizon, so AI regulation, etc. And also down here, it gives us information about their unique positioning. So it tells us they're a brand-led demand generation for ambitious global B2B tech brands, and the advantages of what they actually offer is they have in-house specialist teams, full service integrated approach. And then down here, it even gives us specific talking points for the call. So when I actually set up this prompt, I didn't actually give it any context around our business and what we do. But you can see how if you were to plug in your own business into the prompt and tell the AI what your business does, it would be able to generate talking points that are actually relevant to your offer based on the actual research that we were able to generate. So even though it does give us some interesting talking points down here, like how has your brand-led demand approach driven results for clients like Bearing Point in the US, which shows that you've actually done your research on the prospects. If you were to actually add in your own offer to this prompt as well and tell the AI what you do, it would be able to align your business with perhaps some recent events that this company's actually been through or some client case studies that they have. But all in all, this is a basic brief generated in less than 30 seconds with some pretty simple prompting. So you can see how if you were to build on this system and actually add in your own offer to this, the amount of detailed and relevant information you'd be able to generate going into a sales call. And just having detailed context on what a business like this does, their case studies, their unique positioning, this is going to save you and your time hundreds of hours every single year of actually researching prospects and connect with prospects on a deeper level on sales calls. And there's multiple things you can actually do with this. So you might want to attach this sales brief to the lead's profile in the CRM, or you might even want to add this to a Slack channel as a notification, or you might want to send it through to yourself or one of your sales reps as an email. So if I just hop quickly over to the example CRM I set up for this video to show you how that looks like as well. So you can see here we've got the booking date and the booking time from when we actually booked the sales call. We've got all of the lead's information, and then you can see here we've got the link to access the lead profile. So when a new sales call gets booked, you can literally just come into here, you can open the URL, and you can read all of the information about the lead. So using Perplexity AI, in literally 30 seconds, just with a company's domain, we're able to generate all of this detailed information that we can use as ammunition going into the sales call. So now I've actually shown you a demo of how a system like this works. I'm going to hop back over to my make.com scenario and show you how to set this up one by one. So the first step in my scenario is just setting up a webhook. And this essentially allows us to connect with our booking software. So when a new sales call comes in, it triggers this automation and it populates all of the information that we can actually use in the next modules. So the way to set this up is way simpler than it looks. Every single scheduling software has some kind of webhook integration. So all you want to do is come into here and just generate a webhook and copy the link that it gives you. And if I just show you how I set this up in here, I've come into the actual event type. And down here in cal.com, there's an actual section here for webhooks. What I've done is I've just come and copy and pasted this webhook into the actual section here. And for the event triggers, I've just put booking created. So when an actual booking gets created, there's a bunch of different triggers here, but we just want when a new booking gets created. And you can go ahead and just create that. So if I come back over to my make.com scenario, you can see here in the actual data, if I open the payload, we have all of the actual inputs here. So if I go into responses, we can see the name, we can see the email, we can see the company. And these are the variables that we can actually plug into the next modules in order to actually execute our Perplexity, our OpenAI prompts. And in order to find this, you just create a new module and you come into here and type in webhooks and just go to custom webhook and you'll be able to create one down here. Now I won't go into detail too much on this module, but it's essentially just to format the dates and the times into a normal format. The only reason I've done this is because you can see in the actual webhook here, the start time and the end time is formatted in this weird way where it has the date and it has the time, but in this weird format. So I've just basically separated these variables so we can actually use them in an easy to understand way. Now the next step in the process is just a qualification process. So what I've done is I've basically made a OpenAI ChatGPT module, and it's essentially an email classifier module. So it takes the email from the actual form booking and sees if it's a work email or a personal email. Now, the reason I've set this up is because I only work with B2B companies. So if someone signs up with their personal email, they're not going to be qualified. So the way I've set this up is I've just got a system prompt here, which basically tells the AI who they are and how to behave. And it just says you're an email classifier that determines whether an email address is personal or work. And then for the actual prompt here, I've just got analyze the provided email address and classify it as a personal email or a work email, and basically return your answer as true or false. And I've just given it some examples here. So these are what personal emails look like. These are what work emails look like. And I've just given it the email to classify, which is basically the email that the prospect actually signed up with. So if I just go into the value here, what I've basically done is I've dragged this value into here and given it as the email to classify. The next step I've set up is a router module. So if it's false and the actual result of this is false, so it's a personal email, what then happens is I update the database to say that it's disqualified. I then wait a few seconds and then I go ahead and cancel the call. I won't get into how to set this up in this video. What's really important is this Perplexity AI research prompt. So if it's true and we can see that the output of this is actually a work email, that means they're qualified. So then once they're qualified, we can actually go in and use Perplexity to conduct in-depth research into that prospect. So if I click into my Perplexity prompt here, you can see here we have a system prompt, which is just you're a B2B sales research assistant conducting a research for a sales report. And then for the actual user prompt, telling Perplexity what to do, I've just got you're a B2B sales research assistant and today's date is now. Now it's important that I've actually put now because this is going to tell Perplexity to research up to this exact date. And I've put this in as a dynamic variable. So regardless of when a prospect actually books in a sales call, it's always going to conduct research taking today's date into mind. And the way to find this is to come in here to this icon here and just click on the now variable, and that will always plug in the exact date of today. So for the actual prompt itself, I've just got research the marketing agency within this domain, and I've plugged in the domain here that we actually generated from this webhook module. So if I just come into here again, same thing. I've just plugged in this actual domain here and put it into here. And I've told it to provide a focused sales brief in JSON format. Now, the reason I've told it to use a JSON format, which is this format here, as you can see, is so that Perplexity always outputs a reliable result that's the same each time. So when we actually plug this into the Google Docs module, we can just map these variables directly. And it helps our ChatGPT module, which we're going to use next, actually understand what each of these variables mean. So in terms of what this actually means, it literally just tells it what to research in the key here. So you can see here, we've got in the quote brackets agency name. And then for this empty string here, this is where it's going to populate the actual output that it finds. So if I come into here and show you an example, if I go down here into choices and I just open the message, you can see here for the actual agency name, it says Fox Agency. For the location, New York. So this is just a super easy way to actually format this so the AI understands each variable. So if I go back into the prompt and scroll down, so these are all the actual things we're going to be researching using Perplexity. So we've got a section for agency basics, which is going to research all of these things. Researching the services, which is going to research these things. We're going to research the clients. We're going to research the team, its online presence, positioning, and also some final conversation starters. And like I said, depending on what you offer and what's relevant for you before a sales call, you can change these variables to get information that's actually going to be relevant for you. And what Perplexity is going to be able to do is it's going to be able to research that with real-time information and actually output it here. So that's essentially all of the things we're going to be researching. Now, obviously, I didn't write all of this out myself. What I did is I just went to ChatGPT and I told it all of the things that I wanted to research. And I just said, can you put all of this into a JSON object that I can feed into my Perplexity prompt? And what I was able to do is plug all of this into here. And then just for some final rules, I want to make sure that outputs valid JSON, which is all of this here. And an important section here at the end, if you aren't able to find relevant information, make sure you return an empty string or just an empty brackets. And this is so that it doesn't give us false information or it doesn't give us out-of-date information that then messes up our prospect research. And then once again, if I show you the actual output of what that looks like, you can see if I come into here and I go into the content, you can see it's just got a long list of structured data that tells us everything we need to know about the actual company based on this research. And then next, if I come into the actual ChatGPT prompt that's going to be generating this lead profile for us, so what I've done here is I've just told it it's a helpful, intelligent sales enablement assistant. And for the actual instructions of what we want it to do, I've just plugged in the research data, which is the actual content generated from this Perplexity module. And for the instructions, I've told it, create me a summary that 1, shows fields where information was actually found, 2, is easy to scan and is readable in under 60 seconds. Now, if you think about it from a business owner or a sales rep's perspective, you don't want to read a long document that has a bunch of jargon and irrelevant information. So we want it to be easy to understand and easy to read. And then we want it to actually remove anything that Perplexity wasn't able to find. And then what I've done to actually get the report in a consistent format that's the same across every single prospect is I've actually given it a brief markdown template to follow. So we've just got here as a title, agency name with the sales brief, and then we've just got a long template here that actually tells us how to structure this information. And we can see here it's super simple to read. So we've got titles, we've got emojis that clearly explain what the section is about. And this is just so that it can come in and populate it the same every single time, but it's also super easy to read for the business owner or the sales rep. That's essentially what the template looks like that we're going to use for our Google Doc. And then extremely important here, use only the provided JSON from the actual Perplexity module. Do not make up information. If information is unavailable or we weren't able to generate that section, do not include it in the report. And then we want to make sure it outputs the answer in a markdown format so that when we actually plug it into the Google Doc, it includes section titles and easy to read formatting.